thank you very much, Mr. Ngoweni, for joining us on Stay Defined.
Yes.
Congratulations, new kid on the block.
Yeah.
That has exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
How has the journey been? What have been the challenges, especially? I think you've launched yourself in quite a volatile environment with the pandemic and uncertainties regarding voting dates. How has that been for you guys?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's been humbling. I think the response, particularly from the residents of Joburg, Tshwane and Ekurhuleni, we have received a very good welcome as a new kid on the block. And we're looking forward to the final results. Still early days. But signs are showing that we could have done well here in Joburg in particular. So we're excited. We know that this is just the beginning.
No, absolutely.
The big one is in 2024. So we'll be starting working towards that.
And again, congratulations on the start that you had. Do you think with what is being called the historical lows of voter turnout will have an impact on what you have projected, especially around the young people?
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's if you look at the messaging from us as ActionSA since the beginning of the People's Dialogue, we've been talking about 18.5 million South Africans that didn't vote last time.
Exactly.
And our target was really to encourage them to come out. Obviously, we were not successful in the manner that we would have wanted to be. But again, we acknowledge that it was a short space of time in terms of our campaign.
Exactly.
But I think all of us as political parties, we need to reflect on that. We need to ask ourselves difficult questions, because clearly South Africans define the democratic system as only one party, the ANC. If they're not happy with the ANC, they think that there's no alternative. So that's exactly what we intended to offer to them as ActionSA. As we have always said, we are not in this business to be in opposition. We want to be in government, and we want to offer South Africans an alternative. And we are at the beginning of that process.
Very true. And I think from what the numbers are saying, even at the early stages, some people are convinced that there is an alternative outside of the ruling party. And it's interesting that also, I mean, the Commission has said that this has been the biggest contested local government election in terms of participation. But even with those alternatives, people are still not coming out to vote. Do you think there's, outside of political parties, there's perhaps a disconnect and people don't feel represented enough in parties that did exist? And is this your goal as ActionSA, to bring a different perspective where people can feel like they're part of a movement that will serve them better?
No, absolutely. Look, I don't think South Africans, like I said, maybe it's a question of voter education in terms of our democratic system, to know that the power is in their vote. But it's also, as I said, political parties, we need to reflect probably on our messaging, what we do in between elections, because we can't exist only for elections. You need to exist in between and serving communities and being with them, in all their challenges. Those are some of the things, strategies that we think we're going to implement going forward. And over and above that, I think it also takes a lot of, engagement, regular engagement with communities, so that what the issues are. Sometimes as politicians we tend to speak at that level, or trying to think that we know what the solutions are. But people on the ground are experiencing these challenges, and they know what solutions are needs to be implemented. So we need to be on that level and understand what they are going through, and take their advices and take their solutions and put them into motion. So that's what we're doing, and that's why we created the People's Dialogue in the beginning. That's what we did when we came up with our manifesto, to go and engage and get ideas because as politicians, sometimes we tend to think that we've got all the answers, and only to find out actually we most of us, we have not run businesses, we have not been policemen, we have not been nurses, so solutions are with those people, so I think that's what we need to do going forward.
And I think one of the commentary that has come out is that your ActionSA has been consistently campaigning on the ground, on social media. Is that the idea behind actually getting to talk to people that really have the answers to the questions that you might have as politicians? Was that a deliberate move?
Absolutely. And I mean, social media It's, I mean, as you said earlier on, we started our organization right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And social media was the option for us to be able to get through to the youth and to get through general South Africans, you know. Because South Africans have evolved in terms of technology.
Exactly.
You know? We might think that a lot of people don't have data and all those things. But people are on social media. They are on WhatsApp and they are on Zoom and they are on Facebook and Twitter and all that. So we need to engage on this platform, but also not forget we need to go on the ground, and speak, you know, directly to the voters and those that don't have access to it. So we have to use multiple strategies, and that's what we've been doing as ActionSA.
And on the point of multiple strategies, especially in terms of digitizing election processes, do you feel that's something perhaps that the IEC should have looked at in more depth? And I understand the concerns that there was not enough time, but constitutionally we have elections every 5 years, so you start preparing 5 years in advance. Is that a way that you think maybe more reach should have gone out from the IEC perspective in terms of the rollout and the confusion that we had, will we have elections or not?
No, I mean, we have always said that, you know, IEC have lost an opportunity of actually leading the conversation in terms of our readiness to host elections. You know, they were more focused on trying to find a way of postponing them, you know, instead of giving people confidence that people can still come out and vote even during COVID, like it has been happening across the world. So I think, you know, it's a lost opportunity. I think we need to hold them accountable. You know, it's a Chapter 9 institution. They should be quite far in terms of leading conversation of digital voting, of you know, other means of voting, but that is not happening. You know, and they are allowing everyone else to lead that conversation besides them. So it's quite unfortunate, but I think as society we need to hold them accountable. We need to be unapologetic about it when we hold them accountable. Obviously within the parameters of the law. But it's very important that we must guard this institution of independent electoral commission with everything that we have, because as a democracy we can't afford a weak IEC and a dysfunctional IEC.
Absolutely. So in terms of Mission 2024, what is the way forward for the party, and what are your plans for young people? How are we going to get young people to get to the polls?
Yes. We tomorrow after these elections we start talking, and 2024 we start planning and putting strategies in place. We already have a youth advisory council that's made up of close to about 25 young people that are advising the Senate and the party on how we can be able to get young people active into politics. We want to expand that youth advisory council. It must be across the country in all 9 provinces, and we'll work with young people. We'll get ideas from them, and we'll see how we implement those ideas in making sure that we can get as many young people as possible. Of course, we want young people to be in leadership positions as well, and already we have quite a few of them in our Senate, and we want to see more of them, and more of them are going to council, as councillors. So we are quite excited, and I think young people are looking at ActionSA as a party that they can associate with.
Exactly. All right, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations and all the best with the final results.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to speak to us at State Defined. Just a few quick reactions from the elections. Firstly, I think the big elephant in the room is the low voter turnout. As a party, had you expected it to be this low? I mean, there were indications at registration weekend that people are just not registering to vote, but even those that did register didn't come out to vote. But did you expect it to be so low?
We never expected it, to be honest, to have such a low turnout. But it's embarrassing to those who are leading, because one, it says we are not properly led as the community. But also with the IEC, without that proper preparations were done. They were not well prepared as far as we know. But as far as we are concerned as well, the court case had an impact. You cannot, as an IEC and the ruling party, when you're facing election and there's a pandemic, you fail to put proper safety measures. You go to court and say there's a pandemic, people will die. You instill fear. And at the end of the day, when we lose the case, we expect people to be numbered. Whereas yourself as well, we've got fears that people will die. And the same thing that has happened is that that COVID is non-existing now. The numbers are so quite low. We don't know what was going to happen in February. So we think that there are many factors to that. But it challenges those who are in charge. If you lead in a manner that people want to take you back in the next elections. So poor performance for those who are there. Also, people are angry.
Yeah, exactly. But from a party perspective, do you also think that there was the COVID-19 or the pandemic had any impact on how you guys would usually campaign? And given
yes, correctly in terms of campaigning, all campaigns started late.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the reason for that was the IEC for taking the matter to court. Saying the matter must be adjourned, the elections must be adjourned. If everything went well, we started at the right time. There might be some quite difference from what we see now.
No, absolutely. And then in terms of the youth vote, I think it's something that's very concerning that we see it even in the vaccination rates. The young people are not going out to vaccinate. We're seeing it as well, the turnout. Young people were not seen in the queues yesterday. Do you perhaps think, as you're saying, it's a discontainment or lack of representation from the people that were contesting?
That's correct. Whenever you do the list deployments, the deployment of councillors or MPs, it always comes up as a cry as to how many youth that are represented in your list and women. So it's one of the things as well. If you look at our parliament, I'm sure as a young person yourself, you have been observing what is happening on social media. When people are showing pictures of those grannies who are sleeping in parliament. And young people will say, but look at our parliament. So it's one of the things that challenges us as political parties. How do we make politics enjoyable and attracting to the youth?
And I'm glad you got there, because my next question is, as the ATM, how are you involving young people, and going into 2024, will they be a key part of your manifesto?
Remember, our party is led by a 34-year-old person.
This is the message,
Yes. So that one tells you that there's a lot of youth leadership in our structures. Going to 2024, yes, also must sit down and devise even more strategy to attract the young people to vote and join our party.
All right. No, thank you so much for your time, and all the best with the results as they come in.
All right, thanks. I'm supposed to the national spokesperson of the ATM.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining Stay Defined. As I explained, we're just trying to give our viewers a quick reaction to your experience leading up to the elections, as well as on voter day. And I think the contentious issue now is, as we're just speaking offline, the low turnout of voters, and especially concerning from the youth. Is that what you expected, to be this low? I mean, from the registration numbers, we could already tell that there's something to be worried about. But did you expect as a party to turn out or play out this way?
No, thank you, and thank you to your members of your meeting. So if people, they don't vote because they're not interested in who leads them, that means they are losing interest in South Africa. And we're calling on everyone that it doesn't matter how things difficult can be. Don't ever lose interest in your own country, because it means you're losing interest in the future of your children. But we will see. The voter turnout is low. We can't say it's youth because we don't have the proper
numbers now.
Let's first get the detailed analysis, then we'll be able to speak.
All right.
Right now, we just got a ballpark figure of 12 million. Until we get numbers, and then we can analyze them even in terms of age analysis, as well as which area is it urban, is it youth, what are the issues. So people that are supposed to be employed that are not employed. So we'll deal with those things once we get the numbers. So far, it's still an early day. We can't comment much in terms of our numbers, but so far we're happy with our performance. That is on the result board. So we're patient. We're here.
And do you think, I mean, even on the numbers board, although I know we're still at 81% of counting, but your numbers are looking better than what they were in 2016.
No, definitely, yes. Our numbers are
Much better.
Yeah.
What we are happy with the EFF is that we're not losing many votes.
Yes.
The numbers, they keep increasing.
And you're growing.
But again, it's
yeah.
not saying it's still
It's still early days. But was this yeah, and I think it's also part of your mobilizing of people this time around was much more forceful, much more aggressive in terms of you were seen everywhere, social media and on the ground. Do you think that perhaps if you were not under such a pandemic which limited your campaigning until very late in the process, you could have seen much greater impact?
Look, the normal contestation of elections is that we'll have a 12-month campaign.
Yeah.
So it's internal preparation for 6 months and then another 6 months external. This year everything was balanced 1 month because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So we had to work what we had. We're not complaining. We put the best campaign that we could have done with the limited time and resources. But we did what we could do. So now we're waiting for results and we're appreciating each and every vote that we're receiving.
Yeah, and I think I also just want to commend the party on your ability to bring back voters, young voters, to be interested in politics again. Will this still be a very key part of your plans going forward, especially when it comes to national elections in 2024?
No, definitely. Young people are the future of this country. If you don't invest in them, it means you're not interested in the future of this country. So we will speak to all the voters and we'll still put effort in getting young people to be interested in the affairs of this country, because they have to be interested in the affairs of this country. Because if they are not, then it's a dangerous direction that we're taking. So we will continue doing that.
And in terms of just the turnout and how things went yesterday, I mean, IEC is getting a lot of flack in terms of some of the hiccups that were experienced. Do you as a party feel there's specific areas that could have been dealt with much better?
Yeah, look, we've raised issues in the MPLC, including during the voter registration weekend, where their devices were not working. And even now, they acknowledge themselves that some of the people who registered in that weekend, they were not in the voters' roll. But we'll continue. Even now, our guys are in the MPLC meeting. We raise our issues there. We don't want to complain and do all those things. We raise issues in the correct platform.
Structures.
Now we're just waiting and listening to the results.
All right. No, thank you for your time and all the best with the results.
Thank you.
And we go. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining, allowing to speak to us at State Defined. As I explained, it's a platform that we're trying to get young people to be involved in citizenship, and for that I feel that you have to be armed with the facts of how processes and structures run. So the launch was in October, and since then the focus has been elections, and then from there on we're going to take it into government structures and whatnot. So the purpose for this interview is just to get your reactions to how you felt the process of the local government elections have been. For starters, the voter turnout, is it something that you anticipated that it would be at such historical levels? I mean, I know we're dealing with a pandemic and we also had a period of uncertainty around when elections would actually be held, but did you as a party expect it to be this low?
We need to think about the country.
Yes.
So political decisions have to be thought through very well. So all the best to your platform, and hopefully we'll engage further. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Most definitely we anticipated a low voter turnout, given the fact that voter registration indicated that some over 1 million people who were eligible to register did not register. And so at that point that was a red flag. We knew that something is not right. So we activated structures immediately. And we're quite confident that we did sufficiently enough to get the vote out of the IFP, and I think the numbers as they come in will reflect that as well. But I think there's a greater lesson that needs to be taken out of this. I think it's a mischaracterization to term it voter apathy. People did not just sit at home. They were deliberate in not going out to vote.
Exactly.
And that's not apathy. Apathy is lazy. It's like, I'll see later and so on. It's subjecting it to a secondary priority. Here you had a deliberate reality of people saying, I am not going to go and vote. And so we have to listen to that. It's an important electoral message, an unfortunate way to express it, of course, because participation and voting changes the trajectory. By not voting, you empower those in power, you embolden those in power. So I think it was a missed opportunity on one hand, but a fundamental lesson on the other. And so as the IFP, we are respecting that as well, that in the spaces we will be governing people who have sent a message as well saying, look guys, the right gun.
Yeah.
But we have to make a concerted, deliberate effort,
yeah, exactly.
To actually go out and hit the ground running, and that's the commitment we're making.
No, and I'm glad you touched on that, because my next question was going to be from an electoral point of perspective in the management of the elections. Do you feel as a party, I acknowledge that you've acknowledged the lessons and the mistakes there and things that have been overseen, but do you feel the IEC has acknowledged where they've also missed an opportunity to have perhaps handled this election different? Because I think in its magnitude it's very different to what we've seen since 1994, where the processes that were followed, the correct ones, was there enough that they did or could have done to make sure that people come out and vote?
You know, the IEC has been apologizing a lot. Yesterday we are sorry. Today we apologize. An apology is only as meaningful as the commitment, practicalizing that commitment through corrective action. So we've heard the apology. It's an admission of things that have gone wrong. We have pointed to these wrongs time and time again. They've been stubborn, they've been hard-headed. So it's all good and well for us to go down this road, which we have been down a million times. What we're expecting from the IEC is to understand that the criticism, the concerns, the complaints are not meant to denigrate, but are to enhance the process, are to help the process, because there's no other body. IEC is the alpha and omega of the elections. We need to get the IEC right. As stakeholders, as citizens and so on, we are all duty bound to put shoulder to the wheel to say, how can we help the IEC? So they really need to be, put less egotistical about this thing, less personal about it. Unless, of course, it is personal, and then that's a totally different case. So what we are saying really as the IFP, things have gone wrong. The electronic voting machine, purposes of registration, people who were supposed to register were not registered. So there's a long list of things. We've raised, let me make one example. One teacher's been caught stuffing ballots, 300 of them. There's a SATU member. SATU has pinned their colors to the mast to say they are campaigning and voting for the ANC. Yet the IEC refuses point blank every time you raise it to say, don't employ these people. So it's those, you see, the smaller things become bigger things. And so what we are saying is the IEC must go and introspect to push back on the prevailing reality of the trust deficit which exists between the IEC and its stakeholders.
And I'm happy you touched on the trust deficit, because I think earlier in the briefing they spoke about how all these mistakes are harming the credibility of this Chapter 9 institution that we should protect with all we have. What do you think is the role of political parties then in making sure that, yes, we give constructive criticism that builds the IEC without tarnishing its name to a point where people like me on the streets don't trust in the IEC and therefore don't go out and vote? Even if it's not political apathy or whatnot, we just don't trust the process.
There's a Zulu saying,
manifesto this year, and I think also the IFP has transitioned to attracting more young people, attracting people from different walks of life than previously, when it was perhaps said to be seen for a specific spectrum of people. Were you clear in your manifesto in this time in the elections, and is this something that you're working towards for 2024, to have more young people be part of the movement and senior positions?
You know what? That perception was not created by us.
Of course, yes.
We have always been a party for all South Africans from inception in 1975. There's a saying that goes, the man who wins the war writes the book. And the book that has been written about us has been very unfair. But also at the same time, look, we have had to make interventions. We have had to be strategic. We've had to be innovative. And we as a party believe in a generational mix of issues, of capabilities, of ideas and so on. And that is why the campaign was so accommodative of every spectrum. And so we're going to continue building on those gains, and we think we've been successful, and we are reaching new demographics. But also at the same time, the IFP was at some point the biggest political organization in the country, encompassing all South Africans. And so we're going back to that basic, and we are pushing back on the perception created about us, not by us.
Yeah, no, agreed. No, thank you so much for your time.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and all the best to you as well. All I just want to say is that to all young people, elections are not an event, they are a process. And so we may be done with local government elections now, but there's other processes of council, there's other processes of politics, and there's elections in 2024. So let's not get involved at the tail end. Let's begin agitating the spaces now for the next election, because elections are a daily lived reality. But once again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.